ghostly dragon of distortion finally appears in this week's episode of Pokémon Generations. I'm starting to see a theme here with Pokémon Generations. Every single episode is going to end up revolving around the legendary Pokémon, the most important ones from those games, in particular the ones that appeared on the covers. This week's episode is no different, as we had an episode which featured Dialga, Palkia, and Giratina, who is honestly one of my favorite Pokemon from the entire series, and the visuals that they gave to it in this episode were pretty damn crispy. So as usual, this was an episode of Pokémon Generations, which means they had a very small amount of time to tell a story, and this one involved Team Galactic, who honestly I thought were kind of weak villains from the Pokemon series, especially their whole plan, which is essentially just to, destroy everything and recreate it again using the power of Dialga and Palkia, and that's what they try to do in this episode. Their leader Cyrus, who has zero emotion for the most part, but that's kind of like the whole point of his character, is trying to take control of Dialga and Palkia, the masters of space and time, and this ends up biting them in the ass because they accidentally end up summoning the evil Giratina. And Giratina's entrance in this episode, I think, is honestly the best thing about it. How it's just sort of like this evil black puddle with red eyes that slowly rises from the shadows, taking the visual form of a massive dragon, before suddenly freeing Dialga and Palkia, and then just diving headfirst right into Cyrus, presumably killing him, but actually taking him to the Distortion World, an element of Pokemon Platinum, which I honestly think was probably the most interesting thing about Pokemon Diamond and Pearl. That and the fact that Giratina himself is just so visually striking. It's just a great looking, royal, regal, ghostly, dark, badass looking Pokemon, and you really get to see it in all of its glory in this episode right here. Not to mention, it looks like Cyrus finally got what he wanted, a brand new world that he could call his own that fits his personality, one that has no personality. And so, what's the rundown on this week's episode of Pokémon Generations? I never really realized it until this episode right here, but a lot of the members of Team Galactic are straight up like clones of each other. They all look the freaking same, and that's probably one of the reasons why I didn't care too much for Team Galactic. That being said, Dialga, Palkia, and Giratina were pretty awesome in this episode. I would have liked a little more Pokemon battling, like maybe having an extended scene of Dialga and Palkia fighting back against Giratina, but then again, if you want that, you can go watch one of the Pokemon movies. This is just to tell you the short story which happened in the games. Giratina, without a doubt, was the coolest element of this episode for me. His overall entrance was really awesome. I was kind of hoping we get to see a little more of his wings actually turning into claws and everything. It was one of the few times where I'd actually seen like a Pokemon in the anime that made me think, wow, that's actually kind of frigging horrifying. I would not want to run into that thing into the wild. It also made me appreciate Giratina all the more, not to mention the subtle detail of the fact that when they go to the Distortion World, you actually get to see Giratina's other distinct form, as it has these two forms it can go through in the game. So, this was a solid episode of Pokémon Generations. A lot of the stuff with Team Galactic was kind of boring, but all of the moments with Dialga and Palkia and Giratina really hit it home, and it just, visually speaking, looked pretty freaking awesome, and just dark and badass. Which, I can't say that too often for the Pokemon series, but Pokemon Generations has been sort of changing my mind about what a Pokemon anime series can be. If they actually manage to take this concept and twist it and try to turn it into like a full-fledged Pokemon anime series based on the games, I think it'd be really freaking successful, and I think a lot of fans would want to tune in for it. I know I would. It's freaking great. So, this was a pretty decent episode right here. I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. While there were a ton of cool moments, there were a few things in the beginning which I felt were a little boring, and they needed to take advantage of this very short time frame to give us more Pokemon stuff, not random Team Galactic people that no one cares about. Then again, who am I to complain? This is a free anime series on YouTube, and you should definitely check it out if you're a fan of the Pokemon series. So, if you guys have not actually seen this episode, I will put a link for it in the description box below so that you can check it out. If any of you did watch the episode, please tell me what you thought about it in the comments section below. Of Dialga, Palkia, and Giratina, which one is your favorite? And also tell me what sort of Pokemon stories you want to see from Pokemon Generations. You want to see smaller random stories, some gym battles, or more stories about the legendary Pokemon of the series? Thank you guys so much for tuning into my review. I really appreciate it. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and leave me a comment or two. And if you liked the video, please leave me a like. Thank you guys again for watching, and I will see you next time. And as always, Stay dandy, baby!